Analogy of the wobbling top, isn't that the truth? My opening metaphor is around finding the calm at the eye of the storm, so I guess we're on the same wavelength here. You know what I'm talking about? When the weather, the severe, I looked up, what does that mean, eye of the storm? Calm in the eye of the storm is this huge mass of whatever going on around you, and the capacity to find that calm place right in the middle of all of that icky stuff, so that you're not knocked off center and sucked up into the vortex of whatever's going on. You know, I would have thought after 67 years of walking on this planet that I would have had a calmer life. I've been, you know, we go on these journeys and we think we're well practiced and we think, yes, someday I'm going to be calm. Well, you know what? That hasn't been my experience. I don't know, something, and I don't think there's something wrong. I just think this is life, being what life is. Does anybody relate to that? Some of you haven't had the great privilege of walking around for 67 years, all of you in the back row there, you young folks. But I want to tell you something. What I've discovered about my life experience is there's always going to be noise. There's always going to be chaos. There's always going to be something that calls us to be distracted out of our peace, out of that place where we're feeling, oh yes, this is so, you know, maybe it would have been an easier journey to choose to be one of those people that sits on a cushion in a cave on a mountaintop. Because I think that might be easier, to be quiet all the time. Then I'd only have myself to worry about, right? Well, no, we're in the we-ness experience, all of us. We're we. And so when we come together, whether it's we in this room or we in our family or we in the world, stuff's going to happen. It's just the way it works. And so finding that undisturbed place, that sort of untroubled place, that serene place of quiet gets to be a challenge. And so I like what Glenda said. It's all about remembering the truth of who we are right in the middle of whatever this horrible, chaotic, you know, thing is. Anybody see that? Is it the Sharknado? There's a movie out now about the sharks that get pulled up into a tornado and then they drop on people and eat them and stuff. Seriously, it's some new movie that's out. You know, it sort of feels like that sometimes. It sort of feels like we're wrapped up in that. And what I know about this is when I'm able to keep calm myself, when I find that place of quiet, then something about that allows me to take that field and then move it out a little bit into the world, into my family, into my spiritual community, into my city, my country, whatever. And I'll tell you what, when I look at the news, when I look at what's going on in my own family, when I look at the unrest everywhere, the political unrest, Congress, you know, the Middle East, it doesn't take a lot of imagination to see how difficult it is to find this place of calm within all of that stuff. Because most of us are like Adyashanti's opening story, where most of us, whether we liked it or not, are racing around in our own version of the motorboat of life. Most of us have some sort of thing going on, and what we really want is this place of quiet, but we're engaged in the world. Isn't that the truth? We're embracing our humanity, we're trying to express our divinity and find that calm center, that place of peace, and we're engaged in this big picture that includes an awful lot of people and an awful lot of circumstances that we call the human condition. It just is as it is. So we're going vroom vroom at every level of our life experience. I know that's my life. Every time I've got to be honest and authentic, even this morning, as we were listening to the rippling brook, I found myself going, how long is this going to last? It's the truth. It's the truth. Even when it's quiet, we're wondering, you know, what's coming next? When's the next shoe going to drop? What's going to happen next time? You know, So most of us are living. I like a story that I read in one of the resources that I use for today's talk. Talks about all of us. You know, we live at this very intense pace in life, don't we? I do. I know many of you do. And the analogy was, it's like frantically riding around on a galloping horse. And I love the Buddhist story about the man that's riding this this very fast horse. He's just racing down the road, and his friend's on the other side of the road, and the friend goes, "Hey, where are you going? Hey, where are you going?" And the man on the horse goes, "I don't know, ask the horse." Anybody feel like that? I have no idea. Just ask this, you know. We're just like galloping around in the world, and we sometimes, you know, that song, "Do you know where you're going to?" It's sort of, I feel like that sometimes in my own life. I know you feel like that too. So that we get pushed around when we're not quiet and we're not centered and we're not aligned with the truth of who we are, and we're not finding that place of divinity that remembers the truth. Oh yes, I can be quiet. Oh yes, I can find that soft spot of quietness within me. When we're not there, we get pushed around by everything that happens around us. So our capacity to cultivate quietness, a sense of serenity, a sense of peace, a sense of stillness is very, very important. Because if we don't, we're going to feel depleted by life. We're going to feel like life and everything that goes on in life is just sucking the life right out of us. Anybody felt like that recently? I know one person that came in this morning said, you know, I just need somebody to prop me up. I'm tired. I'm tired. Life has been busy lately. Life has been busy. So this idea of being able to find this quiet place within all of that chaos is hugely important. And the first place we got to start looking is at our inner life. How are we meeting the moment? I love what Thich Nhat Hanh says, great engaged Buddhist teacher. What he says is, he has an analogy where he's walking in the forest and all of a sudden, just out of nowhere comes a big storm. Had any of those happen lately? Big storm happens to you, right? Swirling wind, rain starts coming down, and he makes his way back to the Hermitage, his little safe place in the forest. And the shutters are flapping and the papers are blowing all around and the fire has blown out. He says the first thing we do when this begins to happen to us, we go back home, go to center, we close the shutters, we light the fire, we remember our divinity, which is why I've chosen this image. With all the chaos, we find that bright spot that is our divinity. We light the fire so that we can begin to warm up and dry out and get calm. And then we pick up the scattered papers. And then we deal with whatever's going on. But the first thing we have to do is bring ourselves to that quiet place so that whatever storm is brewing, we've got the capacity to meet it. And if we are as wound up as the storm is, we're not going to be able to meet it effectively. So part of this is that we've got to be willing to change some of our habits, our habitual patterns, our ways of showing up in the world, our, oh my God, ways of showing up in the world. This wobble, like Glenda was talking about. So I was thinking about, you know, there's lots of ways to be quiet in the world, right? We can be quiet in body, we can be quiet in mind. And guess what I think of when I think of being quiet? Yeah, the Buddhist idea of right speech. And I always say that right speech begins with right thinking. But if you can't get your thinking and your mind to work together, the best thing you can do is to keep the mouth shut. Go ahead and think what you got to think, but don't let it come out. Be quiet. Be quiet. And so I was thinking about examples in my own life of what's going on, and you know, I live with a whole host of people in my family. We have a compound, and we all live together. Everyone has their own private quarters, but we do all live together. And so there's an interesting dynamic there, as you can imagine. So we all sort of inter-are. And relationships and dynamics being what they are, sometimes things are not always completely smooth, and we're always teaching one another. And so I've been working with my daughter, who's going through some difficulties in her some of her relationships, or one of her relationships. And it occurred to me that after we talk together and we mentor each other, and I, you know, of course, gave my suggestions on how to handle things, which is what I do when asked. What I realized was her capacity to change her pattern of habitual way to respond and be with the chaos of her life has created a sense of peace for her and quiet. And what I mean by that is her normal habitual way to engage in her difficulties with her relationships is to meet them head on, enter the swirl, fight back, do the whatever, right? We battle against whatever's going on. Only this time I was going, oh, awesome. She said, you know, Mom, I found out that I was in this experience and I knew what I wanted to say, but I didn't say it. And I went outside and I was watering my garden and hosing off my beautiful patio and my flowers and stuff. And she said, and I had that conversation in my head. I said everything I wanted to say in my head, but I didn't say it out loud. And you know what? It didn't cause chaos. See, her capacity to change her pattern of behavior and be quiet. We do this at so many levels in our life. It's looking at what causes, you know, adding to the fire, throwing the gasoline on the fire that creates more chaos and takes you out of your peace, and being able to recognize it and make that little shift. Have the conversation with yourself in your head. And cultivate the capacity to show up in a new way that then fosters and cultivates this sense of quiet and peace for everybody. For the child, for the father, for the mother, for the friends, for the grandma, for the uncle, for everybody in the household, the grandpa. Now it is quiet. Does that make sense? And we do this in so many different, at so many layers of our life experience. We don't have to stop life. We just have to remember that there are new ways that we can meet these turbulent times, this chaos that's going on in our life, so that we can remember the truth of our being and create this field of quiet, this field of peace. Nothing can disturb the calm peace of my mind when I know who I am, when I'm aligned with the energy of my own divine self, when I can find the calm at the center of the storm. And that calm, it's not calm, it's calmness, and the calmness is me. It's me, it's you. We've got to find that. Take time to be still, like that motorboat. Throttle back, turn off the key. Get off the galloping horse. Don't let it take you where you don't know where you're going. Because that's been my experience. When I'm in the swirl, sometimes where I land isn't where I planned. Do you know what I'm talking about? When I'm not clear enough to step outside of my experience and get calm within it, the results don't always turn out so well. They don't always turn out the way I planned. So we've got to take time to pay attention to the quality of our life experience. Look at those patterns that keep getting in the way and make just those little shifts in the present moment. It's all about being present. Can't do it later. Can't do it next time. We got to do it right now when it's happening. Right in the middle of all of this. To face it, don't avoid it, and just be with it. Be present with it. Because when I can be the quietness in the world, when I know that it is a possibility in my own life and I can bring that out, touch others in a way that says, this is a possibility. You can do this. You can be quiet in this chaos. It changes the world. It changes our families. It changes our relationships with each other. It changes our cities, our country. It changes. All we can do is take care of what's ours to do. Just whatever is ours to do. So here it is, the invitation. Pay attention to the quality of your thoughts. Know when it's time to go back to the hermitage, close the shutters, light the fire, find that warm place of light within the experience, whatever it is. Light the fire, make the tea, and then deal with whatever it is. Be willing to change those out of control patterns. I know for my daughter, when that pattern gets started, it becomes very out of control. Everybody gets wrapped up in it, and everybody's out of control. Does that make sense? Got any of those things going on in your own life? Where, you know, one out of control, boy, it's like a domino effect, right? So recognize those patterns in yourself, whatever that is. Find that sweet spot that's the balance point between the chaos of the world, your engagement with whatever is, and then your center, that soft spot that knows, I can be quiet here. Get off the galloping horse, throttle back, and turn off the key. Thanks for listening.